Welcome to Leadership Talk, the official Waymaker podcast, where we explore how your organization can achieve more by doing less. Welcome to Leadership Talk, the official Waymaker podcast. I am your host, Craig Heineman, and with me on sunny Queensland is Stuart Leo, CEO, founder of Waymaker. How are you?
I'm great, Craig. How are you, buddy?
I'm very well. As I was just saying to you just a little earlier, it's reached its top of 8 degrees down here in Adelaide at the moment. So I'm a little rugged up. It's not even winter yet.
It's, if you do choose to live in such a wonderful place as Adelaide, then they will be the blessings you suffer. But
these are the blessings.
Yeah, at least you can top it off with a Shiraz for breakfast.
Noted.
People probably don't know that you're actually on pretty much the other side of the country.
I actually am, and through the wonders of technology, we can still have these conversations.
Yeah.
It feels like we're in the same room.
Oh, it's just like yesterday.
This is the beauty of COVID, fast forwarding, technology, the adoption of new technologies like decades.
It is why Waymaker exists. That was a beautiful segue because society has transformed so quickly into work in office, work from home, work remotely. They're all different things, decentralized leadership, all that fun stuff. And people need new tools, new systems and new skills. And that is what Waymaker is. It helps any organisation, wherever they are, achieve their vision.
That's awesome. And so we want to talk about one of those tools in this episode, Stu.
We're going deep.
We want to talk about the Waymaker Diagnostic. You want to explain that to us?
Well, sure. Thanks. That was a great opening.
Sorry, I should have set it up better than that.
Beautiful setup. The Waymaker Diagnostic. It's actually one of our biggest and most useful features on the platform. It's what Waymaker was birthed from, and it really. I think we titled this podcast "How to Diagnose the Competencies and Capabilities of any Organisation in 30 minutes or less, and then focus on the highest value actions."
I might shorten that for the thumbnail.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
How to diagnose the competency and capabilities of an organisation in less than 30 minutes, and then focused on the highest value actions.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, I'm sure our listeners are appreciating us, refining our work as we go along. Should I say it once more just to get it right? No. But the diagnostic, it actually started. We had a consulting business before Waymaker, and it really birthed itself back in 2014 when we wrote the first versions of it. And for 6 or 7 years, we've been refining this. And the whole idea is, how can we more effectively, more quickly, and more accurately put our fingers on the actions and the activities that are going to shift the needle on this organisation. And so, if you can get that insight, if you can answer that question, what's the 1 or 2 things or 3 things that if we did this quarter or half would shift the needle on the business? Every business leader wants to know that. And, the promise we make is, we'll tell you. We'll tell you more than 1 or 2 or 3 things. Part of your job is actually figuring out what those 1 or 2 or 3 things are. But the diagnostic is an incredibly powerful tool that we've been focusing on to make simpler and simpler and simpler, but to make more usable and practical. And we track, anybody that's taken it, you'll know. In fact, if you took the first Waymaker version, you've probably sworn at me because, it was a beast of a diagnostic. And one of the things we did do, listening to our audience and our users, our very first product improvement was improving the speed of that diagnostic, which 30 days after launching Waymaker, we've made that more than 30% faster. So, which is a cool outcome from our dev team. It's simpler to read, simpler to answer, but so what? What does it do for you? Well, it helps you understand in third-party objective language where you have clarity, where you have maturity, and what activities that, if improved, will shift the needle on the business. And that's really important, because it's a bit like, I often use the analogy. In fact, I think we use this in our marketing. I'm looking at my watch, not because I'm checking the time, but because I use the analogy of a smartwatch. I'll get that on screen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sponsored by Apple today. We're not. But if you'd like to.
We could be. We'd be happy to be. Yeah, go.
A smartwatch listens. Everything you're doing, your body, heartbeat, steps. I'm pleased to say that if I showed you my smartwatch for today, I'm 3/4 on the red band, I'm 130% on the orange, and I'm 60% of the way through on the blue. And if you've got an Apple Watch, you know what that means. You'd be like, oh, gee, Stu, you are just like the Chris Hemsworth of consulting and coaching.
I, on the other hand, have barely stood up and have done less than 1 minute of exercise.
Dude, see, I've got 9,475 steps. I've walked 7.29 kilometres. It's telling me, I'm just going to have a little Skype. It's telling me where I've gone. It's got my weekly summary, flights climbed, and then it's got suggestions on, hey, you should do this and you should do that. So Waymaker's kind of like that. It listens to you and your people, and then it takes all that data back in. It takes 20 to 30 minutes to take that diagnostic. And then it crunches that data back against the experience curve, which, if you don't know what the experience curve, go back and listen to some of our earlier episodes. But it's the Waymaker's experience curve is the methodology that's the foundation of Waymaker. It crunches that data back against the experience curve, and in fact, against 8 different ones. So previous episodes, we've talked about the 6 systems that make up the business system. So vision, market strategy, business model, customer experience, and employee experience. And so all of the data crunches back against those 8 curves. It's 8 because in customer experience we have 3 separate ones: sales, marketing, service. And then it reveals the activities at the different stages of maturity. And each activity is color-coded to classic traffic lights: red, orange, yellow, green, and it shows you where the gaps are. And now it's showing you, and this is the important thing, it's showing you where the gaps are based on the people who are running the business, your people. So the basic assumption is this, is if your people don't have clarity on how the business runs, then it's not looking good for your customers. So if we don't have clarity and there's a gap in how we do something, then we should know about it. And if we can find those gaps, we can close those gaps, because one of the mantras of Waymaker is, Carl, the enemy is...
Carl?
What did I call you? Did I call you Carl?
I'm keen to hear Carl's answer on this one.
Welcome to Carl, our new host of the Waymaker podcast.
Hey, look, you know what? I'm gonna chime in for Carl at this point. The enemy is the gap.
Thank you. Why the heck did I say that? That's awesome. Yeah, that's right. So the enemy is the gap. That's meet our new team member.
In your face, Carl.
Thanks for your service, Craig. The enemy is the gap. Our enemy is not a competitor or a this or that. Our enemy is the gaps in our own business that if we close, we win. That's the game we're playing. That's the battle we're up against. And it's a battle of the mind. It's a battle of the skills. It's a battle of the systems. It's a battle of the best practices, and it's a battle of activities. And that is how you set up our framework, the Waymaker Diagnostic.
So it's a different type of diagnostic than other people would be incorporating into their strategic analysis of businesses.
Well, yes. I mean, when we were building Waymaker, we were we're listening to customers and also looking at other products out there that do strategic planning or might do OKRs. And look, there's lots of stuff out there that will help you set a goal, a basic Trello board or a simple OKR platform, to more complex strategic planning systems, from balanced scorecards to complex cascading strategic initiatives. But all of them had one thing in common. They are all empty vessels of nothingness that require somebody to go, I think this is the important thing to be doing.
Right.
And that was a really interesting insight, because
so it was a place to capture the information but had no idea what to do with it, perhaps like a black hole or something.
Well, I mean, we've all sat in board meetings and around the boardroom table, and this marketing meeting or that sales meeting or this production meeting, and too often the initiative that gets done is from whom? The
loudest voice in the room.
Exactly. Yeah. Either the person with the biggest title, I'm boss, so that's what I think, that's what we're doing. The person with the loudest voice, and they're not good enough reasons, to be frank. And even Frank would agree. But
the movie Flying High from back in the 80s.
I love it.
And he says, "Can I be Frank?" "Sure, Frank." And the other great line is, "Surely you can't be serious." And he goes, "I am, and stop calling me Shirley."
I think Leslie Nielsen is possibly, one of the greatest gifts to comedy.
All right, moving right along.
If you're under the age of 40, you're like, who are these old
who's Leslie
dads?
Nielsen?
So, it's just not good enough that there are not more robust methodologies and approaches to finding out the most important things to do. And look, I'm not being fair to those people that do have rigorous approaches and they conduct the research and they bring recommendations to the table. Fantastic. That's wonderful. And look, you're probably not our first customers. Sure, we can help you as an organisation, but you're probably doing great things already. But if your organisation is kind of stuck and struggling around, man, we're always fighting over the same issues. Sales is always blaming marketing. Marketing's always blaming sales, and operations is always late, and the CEO just does what he wants to do, or dysfunction. Then what we hear from customers is, wow, this is objective third-party data, served up in the boardroom that nobody can argue with because the inputs came from us. All we're just doing is holding up a mirror in a structured way to reveal back where those gaps are. And that, when we connected that with the ability to quickly turn those into strategic initiatives, to do that across the holistic business, not just a part of the business, that's when the magic started to kick into gear, because now in 30 minutes or less, wow, you can figure out where are the gaps in our organisation, and that's helping us nail down what we should be focusing on. And it's not just what I think or not just what you think, because it's what we've all thought. And now that data's being crunched quite intelligently. And that's
what if our collective thoughts are all wrong though? Like we're measuring it up against, so is Waymaker now just the loudest voice in the room, or how are you
how do we correct for bias? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and how do we determine what are the most important priorities in the business now that we've collected all the information? What's the
yes?
Are we just pulling stuff out of the air, or?
No, I mean, so one of the benefits here is that the data is structured. We're asking structured questions, absorbing that data and structuring it back against an organised framework. So as we're asking some of those questions, we're asking the same type of question more than once. So we're asking many questions around, say, KPIs and key metrics and performance outcomes.
Yeah.
So if you're dummying the answers, you're not, it's going to become apparent. What does become apparent is that the patterns and the behaviours appear. That if you're looking at, say, the market curve, which is all about what market do we serve, who's our ideal customer, what do they value, what perceptions do we need to build, you might see activities that are low and need work, and then you might get to the strategy curve and the same theme might be appearing. And so there's themes that are across all, and that's really important as you begin to look at the curves and go from vision to market to strategy to business model. And I must have run dozens and dozens of sessions with clients around this, and very quickly people are becoming self-aware. They're going, yeah, we suck at our performance metrics. Do we have a standard set of metrics that we track quarter in, quarter out? If we're honest, no, we don't. And the one or two of the C-suite might go, well, isn't it this and that? And other people are going, well, is it? What is it? And there's clearly a lack of clarity, and we're seeing that pattern. And so the data is asked in such a way that we iron out some of the bias as best as possible. Look, if you put in all the wrong inputs, you're going to get all the wrong outputs. That's don't bother taking it if you're going to be like that. But once you do take it, and we are balancing things across the business system, which is a system of systems, and across different themes.
And the beauty of this diagnostic is that it's actually been tested over years and years and years. Like this is...
I mean, as I said, I guess we started work on the diagnostic 6 or 7 years ago. Does that mean it's perfect? No, it's a piece of software. As I said at the start of this, the version we released in Waymaker 1.0 is now 30% better in Waymaker 1.1. It will improve over time, and so that's been. We practice what we preach there around continuous improvement, and the whole platform is designed for people to practice continuous improvement, and we'll see that happening. There's benefits to that. So really, in summary, excuse me, most planning and performance systems didn't have data inputs. Excuse me. We wanted to get one and front end those performance management systems that would have structured qualitative and quantitative data coming in. And that's where the smarts are. That's what makes it unique. We haven't found another platform in the world where you can run your business and have these kind of strategic inputs coming in from all levels of the organisation.
So we take this, we take the diagnostic, and then we map this against the Waymaker experience curve. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that works and what we're looking for there?
Yeah, and I think I'll ask this now because we're obviously in production, but we'll put a shot on screen. So you should be seeing on screen, either recently or now or very shortly, a triangle. And that triangle is what we call the Diagnostic Framework, and it's really adapted from systems thinking and traditional systems thinking and the iceberg, the classic iceberg. And this type of diagram shouldn't be unfamiliar to anybody that's looked at any of those management practices. And so what we're looking at is the very base of the thinking is the mental models. And the mental models are the way we view the world around us, classic worldview, the assumptions we hold, the beliefs we hold, how we think. And that's huge. Sitting on top of that, because how we think and how we see the world determines what skills and systems we're going to invest in. What are the structures and the practices we're baking into the organisation? I have a great friend who runs a property organisation, and he's just a mad salesman. All he believes in is sales. Wonderful guy. So what do you think he values? What do you think he's worth more? Doing a great quality output or making a deal? Clearly making a deal, because that's his worldview.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. That's just the worldview. So that worldview is driving skills and systems. And from those skills and systems, you can see over time certain trends and behaviours, because that's what happens over time. If we value sales more than production over time, then that's going to reveal itself in the culture of the organisation as much as the skills and the systems.
Yeah.
And sitting on top of that are the activities of what we do. So how we sell, how we market, what we do, those functional activities. And the ultimate result of that is what people know about us. So right at the tip of that little triangle is a little human character we often use to represent that's you, the organisation.
Yep.
That's how people see you. And that's
so
what's
as you evaluate this diagnostics framework, then there are like a couple of key principles like of this framework. So do you want to kind of like talk us through those in light of what we've just looked at?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those. The first principle is the depth of shift increases the level of shift, or you could almost say the power of shift inside the organisation. Uh-huh. So it's called an iceberg, the classic systems iceberg model, because what customers see or what the world sees is you and the general activities you do. Mm-hmm. But sitting underneath that, beneath the surface of the ocean, are the patterns, trends, behaviours over time, the skills and systems you build, the structures, the practices, which are all framed by your mental models. And so the deeper you create change, the higher the level, the increased level of change. You can, and so we kind of articulate that in this way. Changing what we do does not change who we are, but changing who we are almost always changes what we do. I'm going to say that again because it's so important. Changing what we do does not change who we are, but changing who we are or how we think about the world almost always changes what we do. Let me give an example.
Yeah. Okay,
is that all right? Or
and then I'll ask a question.
Okay. So let's change what we do. Okay. So we're going to change what we do. We're going to mandate that in customer service, we're always going to, let's pretend we've got some retail stores, we're always going to stand up and open the door for the customer. Awesome. We're going to send out a company policy saying that's how you treat customers from now on. Does that change who we are or how we think about the world? No, it just changes what we do. If we teach people to think differently about customers, and let's teach our teams to think about the retail floor like your living room, your house. Mm-hmm. If you have a guest that comes into your home, do you greet them? Of course you do. Do you show them hospitality? Of course you do. Do you care for them? Of course you do. Do you open and close the front door as they come and go? Of course you do. That's just general hospitality. So if we changed our mindsets to saying, hey, think about this shop floor as your home and think about people coming in as guests, then we shift thinking. We move the mental model from being, they're customers to being their guests. And I'm using a really simple customer service example here. And we don't need to mandate open the door. In fact, the minute we shift the thinking to saying it's not a customer, it's a guest, then they'll have a smile, there'll be a greeting, there'll be a comment on how nice they look today, and there'll be a door opened and a door shut and suggestions on what they could do. The individual will be empowered to come up with another 20 ways of giving great customer service. And we'll never have to put that in a policy document. Why? Because there was a mindset shift that happened around how we think about the world around us, how we think about the customer. Making sense?
Yeah. And if you want to just take this iceberg model a little further with some of the language that you've used, would you say then that those things that are seen are what we do, those who we are, are the things that are unseen. Yeah. Like
you could broadly,
if you were to map that against that.
Yeah, broadly. I mean, there are things we do inside the organisation. You know, we build systems, we build organisation structures, we create teams. Now, they're things we do. They're things that are rarely seen though, but they're felt.
Yeah.
So if we build a system that promotes speed of turnaround of customer service, then we may not create a system that encourages hospitality and warmth.
Sure.
It's, hi, Craig, welcome. What do you want? You want a wallet? Fantastic. It's $20. Now get out. Or it's, hey, Craig, welcome. So nice to see you again. And as I talk about this, it doesn't matter whether you're a digital business or a physical business, the same applies. Good digital systems say, hey, welcome back, Craig. Last time you were interested in brown wallets. Would you like a brown belt to go with that this time? Hey, that's useful. Or, hey, Craig, last time you landed on this travel website, you were interested in flying to the Whitsundays. Would you like to add a stay at Port Douglas with that? Thank you to our sponsors, Tourism Queensland. Jokes. But, you get what I'm saying here.
Yeah. And to point to the first principle, like obviously the deeper down you go, the more change you're going to see.
Correct. Yeah. So you could look at our diagnostic and you go, oh, we're weak on CRM. And you could go, hey, we should really focus on CRM, or we're weak on a sales methodology. Let's focus on that. And that's good. Don't get me wrong. That's good. That's improving the business. But the coach or the advisor that's working with the business might also look at the mindset, because we actually reveal not just the clarity on the curve, say for sales or marketing, but we reveal what we call a growth mindset. And that'll be 2 of 16 different mindsets. So we have a 4x4 matrix on mindsets that will reveal one of 16 profiles. And that's not the individual, that's the organisation. So what's the mindset of the organisation as a whole, or in this area, in say customer experience or employee experience?
Yeah, cool.
And the coach or advisor will look at that and go, oh, actually, you know what? Let's work on that. Let's work on that mindset. And so there is a layer of psychology that can be overlaid here that we're not saying we're going to put into the software, because the software does what the software does. Yeah. But rather it will reveal back to you going, we're not thinking in the way that high performance teams think. And that is unique to anything out there.
So that's cool. So that's depth of shift increases the level of shift. That's principle number 1, Stu. Principle number 2.
Yes. So principle number 2 is organizational alignment is actually a 4-dimensional activity. So let me just nerd out for a minute. Organizational alignment is height, width, depth of alignment over time. So thanks to Einstein and his theory of relativity,
time is the 4th dimension.
That's right. Time is the 4th dimension. We all know that time had a beginning, time has an end. Time is relative to matter and space, and we know that we have height, width, depth, and time. And so when you're taking this diagnostic is taking qualitative and quantitative insights into structured data that we track. If you do it every quarter, you can go and look at what your team achieved last quarter, 2 quarters ago, 3 quarters ago, last year. You can see the patterns and trends over time. You can see things moving and changing. And that's really healthy. It's healthy for 2 big reasons. One, it allows us to see where we're growing. We can go, actually, hey, we did achieve. Hey, good news, we did grow. Hey, well done. Man, like 2 quarters ago, sales was weak in clarity and maturity, and we've focused on that. And now, look, we're seeing the results in our numbers. And you know what, though? That's not a flash in the pan set of numbers from a new marketing campaign. That's because we're a better, stronger, new and improved version 1.3. And that's awesome. You can see that. That's the first big reason. It's encouraging and empowering and wonderful. The second big reason is it will reveal your stubbornness. if you are ignoring practices and behaviours over time, they're going to be there, and they're there for everybody to see, and that's good because
so there's accountability right across the organisation, then, right?
Yeah, that's the best way of putting it. So your people will tell you, hey, why do we after 8 quarters still stink at blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And it will move up to being one of those 1, 2 or 3 things that we should improve. So, when you're looking at a diagnostic, you're not just looking at a snapshot of a moment in time now, but you're also looking at a snapshot of our organisation over time. And
I believe that you and I had a conversation once about like growth rings on trees and that type of thing, and just like doing it.
We did.
Same sort of thing, right?
It's exactly that. And so, in fact, that's not a bad analogy. We were talking about it in a different context on that podcast, and the context was as the trunk tree grows, the growth rings are growing on the core trunk. And we were talking about saplings and distractions and that's all still relevant. And a good way of thinking about the diagnostic is you're getting a shot of growth rings, and you get to slice the organisation open, see the growth rings, and then look at them over time. And that's healthy. So it allows you, when somebody says, hey, this quarter we think we should be focusing on building a better employee experience or the onboarding journey, you can look back in time and go, yeah, that has been a problem for now 2, 3, 4, 5 quarters. We've removed other problems and more bigger and more important, whatever they were, and now is the time to focus on this. And so it's helpful in that context. I probably should also say it's also helpful in the context that it's not just about what you're doing as an organisation, but what the world is doing around you, what your marketplace is doing around you. And for 6 quarters, we may have been awesome at employee experience, but something's happened in the marketplace. And
Google went to a 4-day work week.
Yeah.
And now that's standard.
That's right. Could be anything. And now we've got to address that. And so our maturity, our clarity, our strength of that has gone down, not because we've done anything, but because we've not done something. And so that's helpful. So that's how they're the 2 big principles. Number 1, depth of shift increases level of shift. Changing how we think about things will change everything. Just changing the activity at the top just changes the activity top. And I love that statement. Changing what we do does not change who we are, but changing who we are almost always changes what we do. The second principle, organisational alignment, is a 4-dimensional activity: height, width, depth, and alignment over time. We're assessing height, width, and depth every quarter, and then measuring that quarter by quarter by quarter and giving you that sense check over time, which gives you objectivity. It helps you know if you're on course or off course. And I've banged on, I think in this example, I think it's true. If it's not true, it doesn't matter. It's applicable. But that's a good way of opening up a story, isn't it?
Isn't it? Go, yeah.
But the urban legend, which I believe is true, I'm going to dig out the evidence, is that when NASA sent man to the moon back in 1969, I think, they were only ever on course for 4% of the time. Yet the mission was an enormous success because it achieved its purpose: send a man to the moon, land him, pick him up, and bring him back to Earth. That was the mission objective. And the whole time, all they were doing was just calibrating, just going, oh, let's get back on course. Oh, off course. And that's, we have quarters and we have periods of time in organisational life, and even in life itself, when we're like, we sucked that quarter. No, we were still on mission. We were still on purpose. We were still on goal. What we've done is just calibrate back. So don't look back for those last 6 weeks and go, we sucked, look back for the last 6 quarters, 10 quarters and go, wow, look how far we've come. We can see the moon. And
it's like a series of micro adjustments rather than like desperately. You know, the first time you play a racing car game and you just overcorrect every turn and you just end up crashing, right? As you get used to it, right? You start making micro adjustments and it's that sort of thing, right? So even if the NASA analogy was not true, maybe the racing car Xbox One is.
All right. So we'll you know, if you don't like my NASA analogy, go with the Xbox.
But I like it. 4%.
Yeah. And so that's the whole point. Yeah. So we want to know, you know, if you're that rocket ship exiting the atmosphere, you want to know for the next short amount of time, what are the most valuable things we can do? Yeah. And that's the point of the diagnostic. And so if you and your team take that, it takes 20 to 30 minutes, you've got those insights. And then all you've got to do is just grab that 7 questions framework, which you get for free and it's baked into the software as well. Ask and answer those 7 questions. And, in the next few minutes, you'll know. You'll very quickly see from the patterns, the trends, the activities, and the mindsets will begin to challenge your own current mindset. And you'll begin to see that, we need to shift our thinking and we need to take some action. And you know what? If you do that and you just rinse and repeat that, then you're going to be ahead of 96% of all organizations in the world.
That's awesome. So our encouragement to you is to take the diagnostic. Yep. Sign up for a free trial. Waymaker.io.
It's free. What's holding you back?
Take the diagnostic. It will take you less time than it took you to listen to this podcast. As desperately as I tried to keep this to 30 minutes.
So we should rename this podcast.
Yeah.
How to diagnose business in
37 minutes and 20 seconds or
Step
thereabouts.
1, do not listen to the podcast. Go straight to
the diagnostic. So do that. We'd love you to sign up for a free trial. Take the diagnostic and start to see some of these things in action. But Stu, great to chat to you as always.
Yeah, and if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, do that now. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, if you're listening to us or watching us on YouTube, which you will be for this one because there's a cool diagnostic framework you need to look at. We'll obviously put the notes in the show notes, but do subscribe to YouTube. Hit that subscribe. Send us some questions if you've got any, and we will answer them.
And, we're going to get together again in another week and talk more about how to achieve more by doing less.